Hello, Rehan. Hello, Mike.
Hello.
Hi, Rehan. Hi, Caio.
Thank you for joining us live.
Happy to be here.
So, are you an iOS developer?
Yep, I'm an iOS developer. Starting from the very starting, I was an iOS developer.
For how long?
It's close to 9 years. Close
Wow.
to 9 years. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
How can we help you?
So, thing is that like there are some things move on right now. Like I'm face problem on different time. It's not like some fixed problem on this, which is like helping me or like proving very difficult for me for a long time. It's like some problem now and some problem maybe on some after time. So currently I'm just having trouble or like to know how to prove a theory. So I can see that there is a bug on the Crashlytics or some places, but I can like prove my theory that it is happening on the background. It's not for any other reason. I can see that 100% is happening on the background, but I would like to have some test which can actually ensure me that yeah, this is the reason and how I can actually resolve it.
How to prove a theory about a bug or like a crash or something like this, right?
Yeah, and like more importantly, if I can actually prove some kind of test that actually generate the scenario.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to be able to replicate the whole thing, right? The problem.
Yeah. The test is the way to prove your theory. Having a reliable test that every time you run the test, it fails. It shouldn't be flaky, right? It should be 100% of the time it should fail. And when you fix the bug, 100% of the times it should pass. But sometimes it's hard to write this test, right? So what you can do is you can debug, manually debug, try to replicate it, and try it manually until you understand exactly where the problem is.
Yeah.
So you can write a test, because to write a test, you need to actually understand precisely where the problem is. All right, so if you cannot create a test, it's like these nasty bugs, that's very hard to replicate. You have to do it manually until you actually figure out where the problem is, and the proof will come with the test, with a reliable test that fails 100% of the time with the bug and passes 100% of the time when the bug's fixed. And do not stop until you can replicate the problem with a test. Even if you think you fixed it, if you cannot reliably replicate the problem, maybe you haven't fixed it. Like this is common with data races. Data races, you can run the test 100 times and it passes. 101, it fails. And it usually fails on CI. And then you cannot replicate on your local machine.
Yeah, good place to fail.
Exactly.
Yeah. And when you have, for example, problems like this, data races, what you can do, you can force a scenario that would make the data race happen. For example, you create like a loop of 1,000 times. You run the operation 1,000 times in a very short period of time, or 1,000 times, or 1,000,000 times. You stress test the application to replicate the condition. And then you write a test to make sure it doesn't happen again. But it really depends on the problem trying to fix, what the approach will take to replicate the issue. But regardless, when you realize, you understand what's going on, you write a test.
Got it.
So do you have an example of a problem you have?
Yeah, I can actually give a kind of example. So we actually have some API call, and we actually never actually dismiss that API call when we actually move from the app, like if the app goes to background or something like that. So there is things like which actually will session will be like timed out, and it will be like done from the server end. So the other corresponding API call could be like terminated, and we actually have some kind of mechanism which actually makes sure that we actually renewing the session after some time. So it's kind of a state like that. I can see that on the reporting tool that it is actually failing for the remote API calls, And the renew session thing is like failing on line 0, which is very interesting. I can find why it is failing. And the second thing is that it is randomly failing on some API call. Let's say like profile call, or maybe like some get phone call or get phone. This type of things is failing randomly. But the common thing is that all of them is happening 100% on the background. And it's not like a crash, but it's kind of a non-fertile error. So it's kind of a like an unreachable state. It's not like a app is being crashed. And more importantly, the app is like on the background, so it doesn't actually, user don't see that crash.
Okay, so is it actually a crash, or the app was terminated because it was using too much resources in the background? It could be it.
I don't know, I can say it, but it is tracked as a non-fertile error, so it's not a crash. It's kind of a like, I'm not sure about the non-fertile thing, but it's pretty much sure that it's not a crash. Like they are like termed on different time, crash and non-crash and non-fertile error. It's more of a like probably an unstable state where app don't know what is happening. So this type of thing probably.
Okay, yeah. So if it's not a crash, then you just need to check what is going on in the what kind of process is it trying to run in the background, and some things are not allowed. For example, OpenGL is a classic one. When you're trying to edit some image and the app goes to the background, you need to stop those processing, otherwise you will terminate the application. You know, there are some it depends what you're doing in the background, but there are some things there you cannot do in the background, otherwise your app will be terminated, and then you might log something on Crashlytics.
Yeah, so what should be the good practice? Like whenever I am actually going from the app, should I like hold or resume the API call and return back them, pause them, and I resume it when the actual app comes back? So doing that, I'm pretty much sure it's gonna add a lot of complexity on the app. And I'm not sure, like, it's a non-fatal error, it's not a crash. So should I put effort and time on this? Because API call can be like a lot of API calls. I need to like remember all the state, all the things. I'm pretty sure it will like add a lot of complexity. So
Yes.
is it worthy? Like, should I spend time on it?
No, you don't need to, because the OS would be able to pause everything needed in the background. You don't need to do it for the network requests. It depends if you're running background requests, actually, like running like downloads, then it's a different flow. Then you need to create a background session and resume the download in the background. But it really depends on the case. If it's just normal requests, you don't need to pause them when you go to the background. The OS will handle that for you. If you're having crashes because of that, maybe it's because it's using too much resources and the app is being terminated. But but then it's a problem of using too much resources, right? Then you need to figure out how to use less resources.
Yeah, but also
sorry.
Yeah, but also there is another thing is that the server will time out the session that I'm actually going through the app from the app. So that thing is also there, and probably it won't call, but let's say I get the API call and there is a phone call. So the remote call was like some kind of middle stage, and the phone call finished, but that didn't respond. So what should I do on those states? Like, how can I actually like resolve those type of scenario?
But why is this a problem? If you're downloading something and the user either take a phone call or switch the app, that's fine. Like the OS may still give you some time to finish the request. If it's not enough time, you will pause the request, you'll cancel the request. And when you go back to the app, go to the foreground, you need to react and say, is there any request I need to restart right now? But you don't need to pause it, but you might have to restart it when the app goes back to the foreground. Yeah. Right? Because your app shouldn't crash because a request was terminated before it completed. That wouldn't crash the app, right?
Yeah, wouldn't. Yeah, right. Yeah, so
if it's crashing, there's something wrong.
Yeah, definitely. No, we don't have crash, but we have like some unstable state, and I'm not yet able to like find that thing. Spend some good amount of time, but actually didn't saw any kind of like, I wouldn't able to prove that my theory. So first, I think I need to prove it, and then to like go to resolve that thing, because otherwise it's not a certain thing to put that solution without knowing what is the problem.
Yeah, it's very hard to simulate these background conditions on the device, or especially on the simulator. Maybe you can with the device. Try to run this testing in the device. It's more reliable than the actual simulator.
Okay, but for that, I can't be able to write automated tests, right?
No, you won't be able to run tests in a background condition, right? But what you can do is you can find the problem and say, oh, the problem is that I'm running more than 100 requests in the background, for example, right? I don't know if that's the problem. But then you can write a test to guarantee that you never run more than 100 requests at a time. Make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
You find the problem, and then you write a test to prevent that problem from ever happening without having to simulate a background condition when running tests.
Yeah, I will try it. Let's see.
Yeah. Okay. You can also simulate, for example, you can send notifications during tests to say, oh, the app went to the background, and see, and you just have to check how your classes reacted to that event. Right? For example, pausing the request. You can test that, oh, when this notification is sent, this class stops the requests. You can write this test, even though you're not in the background, you're simulating that scenario. What happens when this notification is sent? This can be done.
Yeah. Yes. So, yep. Another thing I actually have pretty much always on my hand. So it's another question.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what do you guys actually follow to learn new things? Let's say, I'm putting a very simple example. Let's say, I don't know about animation, UI animation. So, or like you don't know UI animation. So there is a task for you to do some kind of animation. So what will be your process of learning and to complete that task?
Documentation, first of all, like whatever Apple offers, and the like a resource that I found extremely valuable is the WWDC videos every year, but not just for that year, like especially like animations, for example. There are a bunch of videos that go literally many years back, and like they talked about specific tips and tricks, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago, that
Samples.
and samples, yes, you can find anywhere else probably, or like they don't mention it anywhere else in the documentation, stuff like that. So definitely Apple's, I would say, resources.
Yeah, always start from the official resources. Sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes you're dealing with an API that's not documented, and then you need to find a third-party source. You have to find some courses, some books on the specific topic, but always start from the official documentation, from the source, from the official source. Whatever you're using, even when you're not just Apple, but let's say, oh, I want to use Realm. Learn Realm from the Realm documentation with their sample projects. Because if you just go on Stack Overflow or you go to a Medium article, maybe they skipped the steps. They didn't read the documentations. And you're trying to skip even more steps by reading what they did. And they're going to have race conditions. You will not be using the framework correctly, and so on. So always start from official documentation, regardless of what you're using. So about Apple, you start with the Apple Docs, WWDC, check the simple projects they provide you there. And as Mike said, even there's some old documentation there that's still valid, it's still valid.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many times I've looked 5 years ago videos that they were like 2015, something like that. And I found gems literally that most probably I just dismissed at the time, right? Just said, okay, like this is not helpful to me at the time, but no, it's there.
Yeah, I sometimes like try to go with the doc first thing, but one of the main problem I find is that to digest that documentation, especially from the Apple, like currently it's like pretty good. Like reading the Swift book was pretty easy, or like at least it was like pretty straightforward. But some of the Apple documentation is like pretty tough for me to actually like digest or what they actually say. So I'm not sure. It's probably maybe my English understanding or probably something else, but I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, so you start there, you start with this documentation. As I said, sometimes it's not enough. Then you look for other sources.
Yeah.
But you always start here. You always start from the foundation here, from the docs. And the docs will have a bunch of guidelines. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do, and then you go and look for the other sources, because when you're now looking for external sources of books or whatever, and you see that they're doing something that documentation is saying don't do it, you say, maybe I'm not going to learn from this source. Let me look for something else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why it's important to understand, like, the creators of this framework are telling you use it like this. So you need to understand the main idea the creators had for that framework, and then you can look at external sources if you want to, find something that you cannot find in the documentation.
Understand? Yeah.
Yeah, and go back after maybe you've visited some external source to understand better a concept. Go back to the documentation if it didn't initially make sense. So just to put things into perspective. From Apple's side. So yeah.
And when you learn something that is not in the docs, you write a blog post and you share with everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Saying about blog post, like I have a lot of things to ask, but I think it wouldn't be a isolated thing. So yeah, maybe some later time. But one of the thing like I would like to have or like have a discussion about, like, how do you handle the burnout situation, especially in this COVID time?
Handle what? Sorry?
Sorry, what situation?
The burnout situation, like you are
the
working a
burnout
lot.
situation.
Yeah. Yep.
So what do you feel is the problem about burnout? Is it that you're working too much? You don't disconnect from work? What is it?
It's not actually like too much work pressure. It's more of a like maintaining or doing the regular tasks daily and daily for the last 1 year. Like not able to go somewhere else and like sitting here on this room or in this building for like a year. It's pretty tough.
Yes, I know. It is tough. And reach out to people like you're doing right now, talking to us. There are communities, iOS events going on. If you go on Twitter, they have the happy hours and meetings on Zoom. Like, participate and reach out to people. We cannot meet them in person, but at least you get out of the routine a little bit, being stuck in one place. It's not healthy. It's important to reach out and talk to people, friends, family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Zoom, Skype, FaceTime.
Yeah.
And Clubhouse as well. It's pretty popular there.
Yeah.
But yeah, another aspect for me that I found that works well is like the physical activity. Like try to have some sort of physical activity, I would say, in your daily routine.
Yeah, I don't know how's the conditions there, but if you can go for at least 1 hour walk around the block,
We are having a lockdown.
Lockdown, right?
Mhm.
Like complete lockdown. Okay.
Yeah. But good thing is that I have a roof. I have access to a roof, so
Oh,
actually
nice.
I can actually make some stretching there. Actually brought a rope to like having a skipping thing, but wasn't able to start it. So I think I will start it.
Yeah, exercise helps a lot. Yeah, I don't need much space. If you get like these home programs, you can do like yoga, things like that. It doesn't require a lot of space.
One important thing. So it happens to me a lot of time. I stuck to a good routine, like starting from like 5 a.m. and finishing on the 10 p.m. the daily routine and doing my task. But it's very difficult for me to continue on this routine like months after months after months. Like even if like changes on the weekend, I don't work that much. But other than that, I don't stick on that good routine for like a long time. It's just after 3 or 4 months later, or maybe maximum, I was like able to, I think, 9 or 10 months, and after that, it actually breaks. And again, putting back to that routine is like pretty tough. So, how do you guys manage it?
Discipline. As soon as you get out of the routine, get back to it as soon as possible. Because things will happen, and you have to get out of the routine because there's a meeting that you have to work a little bit more a week or a day. Go back to the original routine as soon as possible. The longer it takes for you to go back to the routine, the worse it is to get back on track.
Right. Yeah.
Instantly knows, oh, today I broke my routine, so tomorrow I need to pick up the slack, because if you wait for a week or a month, it's going to be much harder to go back. So it's all about discipline. Have a checklist. Every day you check your checklist. Check the checklist manifesto book. For example, if you want to read this book and you say, okay, I want to read this book, but I don't have time or I don't have discipline. Well, you're going to write a checklist, a daily checklist, and you're going to say 30 minutes a day. You're going to sit down and read this book, and that's all you're going to do. You're going to turn off your phone, you're going to sit down in a quiet place and going to read for 30 minutes. You just set a timer. When the timer rings, 30 minutes, you close the book and you move on. And if you do this every day, in 2 weeks, you finish the book.
Yeah.
Right? But if you don't have this routine, you have the book there for years and you're never going to read it. But if you just do half an hour a day, 15 minutes, whatever you can, 20 minutes, whatever time you have, you do it consistently, and you're going to finish, 30 books a year by doing this, for example.
Yeah.
So this is one book that can help you be more productive. There's also what is the other one? Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
I read that one last month actually.
Yeah, books that help you, stay on the right path.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also identify what causes or what might cause the burnout, like literally, and just decrease the amount of doing it. It's like, if for example, like if you don't have enough rest in your schedule, then add some more rest, and the probability of burning out goes down, or like sleep, or I don't know.
Yeah, identify patterns.
Yeah.
If you realize that, oh, if I work out for 10 weeks without breaks, I usually get hurt somehow. So you don't wait to get hurt, or you don't wait to get burned out for it to happen. You proactively say, every 8 weeks, I take a week off from workout. It's part of the routine to take a week off, for example. Then you never reach the burnout state, because it's hard to recover from the burnout. You prevent the burnout in the first place. So start, and this is personal. You need to identify in yourself the things that drive you to burnout, and proactively, set schedules to prevent it from happening. Taking more breaks, or I don't know. It depends. It's a personal thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I think I know my timeline. Like before COVID, actually, I take a week off in each 3 months, or like less than 3 months. So it was a very good routine for me, but things got changed after this COVID impact.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like pretty tough. And yeah, so that how it's going. So even if I take a off, or like even I don't do things, but I don't feel like I'm get refreshed type of thing. So I don't come back that refreshing feelings which I got from like going on the mountain, or going on the river, or going on the sea. So that's the problem actually facing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hope things get better soon.
Yeah, let's hope.
Let's be responsible and help everyone be responsible so we get out of this as quick as possible. Awesome. So thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
We hope it helps a little bit.
Yeah, it helps a lot. I have got a lot of good suggestion, and definitely I'm gonna follow up.
Yeah, and check our book suggestions as well. If you want to read something, you might find a good book there that may help you.
Yes, definitely. I have that book suggestion, so I'm gonna follow up. Definitely.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay, so thank you for joining us.
Yep.
Bye.
Good
Take
to
care.
see you guys. Yep. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.